this is something totally brand new for me, using a new microphone, which I thought was going to hook up to the Bluetooth and be direct that way, but I was wrong. The sound is actually emanating from right in this area, so I'm trying to speak loud enough so that way y'all can hear me appropriately. There is a way for me to record, but I have to connect a cord to it, and the cord is so small, so I was like, yeah, I'll forget about that one. Do have a video uploaded for yesterday, but I uploaded it today, and I'm waiting for it to go through its checks before I list it. It's going to be a kettlebell protocol video, something that I love doing because there's so many different ways to work out, there's so many different ways to be well, and as you know, I love doing workout videos because this is a way for you to stay well. However, I do have an OF, and the reason that I have that is because that's where we can wild out a little bit more. So what I did is I got my OF, and there's still going to be obviously a boundary and a line because, as I always say, it's still important to stay classy, and it's still important for you to do what makes you feel comfortable and not necessarily what just everybody else wants you to do. So the whole reasoning behind the OF is so that way there's more content that's available to people on a different level, on a different scheme, because I cannot help the way that I look. It just so happens this way. Aw, thank you so much. I cannot help the way that I look, so might as well be advantageous about it, but also while remaining in a classy manner. But I am very excited to be using my new microphone. Hopefully y'all can hear me appropriately. And I wanted something that would be easier for me just to stand around and walk around because, as we all know, I have ADD and I need to be moving around as much as possible. So with Cult of Wellness, I still want to be able to have that wild side, so like I said, that's exactly why I made the OF. The username for the OF is Uzi Bruzy. That's UZIBRUIZ3. And there's a lot of fun stuff on there. You can message me, we can have conversations, and it's just an easier way for people that want more wild content, and for people that are comfortable with where they're at. That's exactly what my YouTube channel is for. It's all about content on wellness and also content on ways to be wild in capacities that maybe you didn't think about before or that you may have overlooked. As a wellness coach, I'm a big believer in having vices, and that's something that you won't hear from a lot of wellness coaches. That's a topic that they're very much afraid of. I talk a lot about human design and the gene keys as well, and the reason that I do this is because it has been so incredibly helpful to my clients and to myself and in my life. I've really been able to see pathways, things that I'm able to do a little bit better, things that I'm able to see that I have gifts in, and I'm much more confident ever since being involved with human design and gene keys. And I know a lot of people are kind of still getting used to the different way that I'm using this platform, especially with the readings. But the reason that I make these things available to you is because I also believe that neuro-linguistic programming is something that can be used in a positive way. But when you think about it, neuro-linguistic programming is just a way of speaking to somebody and having that be something that's more easily understood. So I really believe that human design does use a form of NLP, not exactly NLP, but a form of it, in order to be more easy to understand. And also at the same time, it's kind of hilarious, and I like talking about it because it always offers paradoxes. It's always offering one or the other, but it's also offering the middle. So when it comes to the gene keys, what are we talking about? We're talking about the shadow, the gift, and the city. And I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but I was like, you know what, SIDDHI sounds a lot like CITY to me. So I'm going to pronounce them the same way and just see what happens. And that's exactly what I did. I wanted to make all the readings something that were going to be important to this channel and important to what I'm trying to make and what I'm trying to stand for. However, like I said, if you're more interested in the wild and out, that is what the OF is for. And I am so honored to have some memberships and stuff like that on there. I really appreciate it. Because as you know, the goal is that I'm trying to grow and I'm trying to get a spot in a new studio where I can work from and do everything that I'm on all these different platforms for from one location. So today, I guess what we can talk about is just having a stream of consciousness, right? That's something completely normal. A lot of people do not tune into their intuition, and this happens so often. People don't spend enough time with themselves to really get to know themselves. And this happens so often to so many different kinds of people. People have a really hard time with silence. People have a hard time getting off of their phones. And this isn't something that you have to do all the time, because as I know, I work a lot for my phone and it's something that's really helpful for me. But for some other people, their phones can be their addiction. Now, you can obviously be a addict that is not really an addict, right? You can use things responsibly. There's a lot of people out there that understand that concept. Using things responsibly. That's when it comes to the vices, and why I'm so honest about the vices that I have. That's because I want to be honest. I want to be authentic. I want to share my path and my journey in the most natural way I possibly can. And I wanted to be myself. I wanted to show people exactly who I am, what I'm about, because I do want to have more clients for my coaching business. And for that, you can email me at cultofwellnessco@gmail.com. You can also email me at Jenna Shaffir, that's JennaShaffir. Thank you so much for the like, at gmail.com. I will be able to get to you a lot more easily, but like I said, there's also the OF, and that's a great way to contact me on there. Because Valentine's Day is coming up, and I'm on theme for Valentine's Day with the pink, not so much with the outfit, but right now I'm in a Barbie phase. So why is that? My birthday is coming up on February 10th, so that's less than a week away. And for my birthday, what I decided for my party, which is going to be this Saturday, is I wanted everyone to come dressed in the Barbie and Ken theme. And then I thought, well, maybe just for this year, the idea of Barbie and Ken, not the type of rhetoric that you were told about in the news about what this movie is all about. What I love about the Gene Keys and human design, and what I love about feminine wellness coaches and about feminine energy coaches, is about what they're talking about. What they're talking about is an energy, and really we all are energy. This is something I've talked about a lot. That's all that we are. Our eyes are muscles, and they perceive energy in a different way. They perceive frequencies in a different way. Even with this microphone, you're now hearing my voice in a different frequency. Maybe very much my voice as it is, but it's very much louder, and I'm like, oh, this is what my voice sounds like. What is going on with this? Well, it's being amplified by something else. And what the Gene Keys is talking about a lot of the time is how certain Gene Keys can be activated by other Gene Keys, by how a lot of what we are is frequency. When it came to my meditations, what I would often talk about is different energies and different frequencies that you can experience during the meditations. And a lot of my meditations are guided, and that's simply because a lot of people have a hard time with meditation. There's a lot of people like me that need the opportunity to move around, that need the opportunity to have someone guide them into something. A lot of people, like I said, have a hard time being by themselves, or they're dealing with a lot of intrusive thoughts. And that's something that I was dealing with for a really long time, even when I had first started this channel, even as a wellness coach. That was something that I was personally experiencing. What I called intrusive thoughts is probably different from what the DSM-IV would consider intrusive thoughts. But basically it was thoughts that would come into my mind that just did not feel organically like me. Now what this can be is the subconscious. And what it most likely is, according to Dr. Joe Dispenza, is the subconscious. We're storing everything that we're experiencing. So all the music that you're listening to, the news, if you still watch that, I really try not to. I figure that I'll get all of the news that I need from the people that I know, and they can tell me what I need to hear, since they know how I'm going to be able to absorb that information and regurgitate it, or choose not to regurgitate it at all, because the news really doesn't affect me all that much. I know it's affecting the world, and that's not saying that I'm not a proponent of the world. Aw, thank you, Baron. I appreciate that. It's very sweet. Um, Even though, all this stuff is important to the world, when we're focusing on ourselves and we're focusing on being the best version of ourselves, sometimes we do need that time to be with ourselves and to go ahead and back off of the news just a little bit. Maybe get your news from the people that matter around you. Maybe only give yourself certain times to listen to the news, just so that way you can stay in a more positive mindset. Now, obviously, if a whole bunch of people died like they did in those plane crashes, that's something that is awful. That's something that I'm not saying don't, mourn and don't feel bad about and don't help support those people and their families of those that lost loved ones. But what I'm saying is, does it have anything to do with you in particular? Is this something that you have to mourn about? Is this something that you have to go ahead and process right in this moment, or is this something that you can process a little bit later? I myself have a really deep connection to 9/11, and this is why. I was born at 9/11 p.m., so as a child, once 9/11 happened, I, for whatever reason, had this one thought. And what that one thought was, did my birth time cause 9/11? An awfully very 7th grade, very selfish thought to have. Oh, did I cause it? Oh, what did I have to do with it? Completely ignoring everything that had to do with, what was going on, what the climate was at that time. And being a child, being somebody that wasn't in a capacity to even understand. As soon as it started happening, as soon as the second tower was hit, I actually made a joke about it. And the reason why it was because it reminded me very much of January 6th. On January 6th, I was actually pregnant, and when I'm pregnant, I get very, very sick in the beginning of my pregnancies. Both of my children are boys, so I don't know if that has something to do with it at all, but it might. And I get really, really sick in my pregnancies, and I lose about 10 pounds because I'm throwing up so much in the beginning. So on that particular day, me and my partner at the time, who is still my very best friend and number one baby daddy, what, to Joe? What happened at that time was I was so sick. I had gotten a huge thing of Tupperware and I was just throwing up into that because I was too weak to make it to the bathroom. I was on the floor, torn up from being so sick. So we finally made the executive decision, Jenna, you need to go to the hospital. And I was like, no. And I had no idea what was going on because, like I said, we weren't watching the news, we weren't paying attention to anything. But I remember getting to the hospital. It was a Baptist hospital. Why that matters to this point, I don't know, but I just figured I'd let you know that it was. I went to a Baptist hospital and I needed to, walk in. And at that point, the nausea had pretty much, it was still there. Like I felt like I had to get sick, but I wasn't actively getting sick anymore. And this was obviously still during COVID time, so things were weird. Well, on the TV screen, they did have the news playing, and it was actually footage of January 6th. However, the TV screen, if anyone knows anything about TVs and about cinema, usually 16.9 is what things are filmed and recorded in because that is what the ratio is on our televisions. Well, for whatever reason, the news this time on the TV was not set to 16.9. Someone must have made an input error or done a setting error. And so I couldn't see the ticker. So I couldn't see that this was actually really happening. I thought it was a movie. I thought it was one of those Gerard Butler movies, like Olympus Has Fallen or Olympus Has London or whatever all these movies are with Gerard Butler protecting the president, being the president. I'm still not sure because I haven't really watched those movies all the way through. All I remember is P.S. I Love You, where he just is doing an I love you to his wife. Here we go to Valentine's Day. Stream of consciousness, it always works. But anyways, so on January 6th, I was there in the hospital watching what I thought was a Gerard Butler movie, having no idea anything about what was going on with PBs, not having any idea of what was going on in reality because I was so nauseous and so sick, and they had to IV me some saline, some medicine, so that way I would stop throwing up. And after that, I really didn't actually have as many bad experiences with nausea. My second pregnancy, I definitely was sick throughout the entire thing, but I was trying a whole bunch of different remedies just to not feel sick. So finally, I was able to find out for real what happened on January 6th. Because of my birth time, you know, I have this connection to 9/11, but there's two other reasons as well. There was a treatment center that I had been to when I was younger and having some issues, and a woman there had actually lost her husband in 9/11. During COVID, I was a date coach for a company that worked for Match.com, which I'm going to talk about that because whatever with NDAs. That's on them. I could probably say a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to because I'm going to keep this positive and uplifting. But during that time, we had the coronavirus hotline because I worked for them starting in 2020. And we had a coronavirus hotline, but however, because it was so corporate, we weren't allowed to say COVID. We weren't allowed to say coronavirus. And really, we had nothing as date coaches. We really didn't have anything to say when it came to this coronavirus hotline. It was intended for people to call that wanted to talk about dating and talk about how to date during COVID, but that's not exactly what it was used for. What it ended up being used for was almost as a counseling, brief type of hotline. And I was literally having to listen to people crying and being so upset about losing their neighbors. And this was happening a lot from people in New York. We would have people from Canada call in. And they seemed to be doing okay. They seemed to be using the hotline for what I think the original intention was, which was, hey, you can use this for free right now. We're trying to offer you a service. But it was something that people that were experiencing grief were using as a counseling service. And thank goodness for our training and for the types of people that we hired in our San Antonio division, because that's the type of calls we were taking. Now, mind you, all this is now connecting to my aversion of 9/11 and having everything to do with it, especially because this felt like another hit to New York. And New York is a state that holds something really big for me personally, because when I was 15, I was supposed to go on a big New York shopping spree and a big New York trip. But because of my rebellious and wild nature, I was no longer allowed to go on that trip, and I'll leave it at there. You can find out more about that on OF if you choose to get on there, subscribe, and message me. I'll tell you all about it. But anyways, so I have this like affinity for New York. I've always wanted to be there. I especially want to visit Brooklyn. And so it was just another thing. And even though January 6th happened, you know, in Washington, obviously, into the Capitol, it just didn't seem real to me. It seemed like a movie because of the way that I was seeing it. Like I said, I couldn't see the news ticker because of the ratio on the screen. So I truly thought, this is a Gerard Butler movie. This can't be happening. This isn't real, you know. And it's very easy to have and create your own scene, your own place, your own bubble. And that's something that I think can be used as a positive and not so much as a negative. I think if I had been able to experience that for real in that moment, if I had to process it while I was so sick and so pregnant, I think it probably would have had negative connotations on me, or a negative experience on me. And I wouldn't want to have any type of negative experience, especially while I'm pregnant, because I don't want that to be, you know, quote unquote imprinted, if you want to use that word, but I just wouldn't want to have that experience with my child. In my first pregnancy, I was about 7 months pregnant, and or maybe six or 7 months, something like that. And I remember going with my uncle to go get Chinese food, or to go eat at the restaurant, eat Chinese food. So we were there talking, having a great time. We ate our Chinese food. Of course, I had a whole bunch because I was pregnant, and I was like, hey, I can eat whatever the hell I want. Screw the MSG, it's not gonna hurt my baby. And went ahead and we went outside because we were done, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hear this awful grating metal sound that's so loud. Hear something hit with oomph, and it was a car crash right by the restaurant. The other thing that alerted me to this sound was the movement in my belly of my first son. He did some type of triple flip in my stomach. I don't know what he did or how he did it, but he did, right as soon as that sound hit. And I was like, oh my gosh, so anything can really affect my child, especially sound can affect my child. But it was this jolt of fear that I got because it was just something unexpected. I wasn't expecting to hear or to see the effects of a car crash or a car crash at that moment. So having that fear jolt me already, then having that movement in my stomach, hearing those sounds and everything, it was insane. And I was like, this is an overload of sensory information. And physical information, because I literally felt my son do a triple flip. Maybe he's supposed to be a figure skater and I just didn't push him enough. I don't know. But he, alerted me to this sound, to this crash, and of course we tried calling 911 and, getting everyone to help out the people that were just affected by that car crash. But there's a lot of things that I've been through in my life that have been shared experiences with a lot of different people. So COVID is obviously probably the biggest one, and it could have been used as something to unite us all. And what we've seen is that it wasn't exactly used for that. It caused a lot of division. I myself did profit off of Moderna. I just figured, hey, it's the stock market. It's Robinhood. I can't really make that big of a difference anyways. So yes, I did profit off Moderna. Was that the shot that I got? No, I got Pfizer. 2 shots while I was pregnant. Not a fan of that at all, not in any capacity, but hey, that's neither here nor there. It's just my experience, it's just what I went through. And that's something that we can all kind of talk about. What this did open up was the opportunity for people to talk about what they want in schools, what they want to be talked about in schools. And the reason that this is coming up is because last night I was watching some of the old South Park episodes. And it's so funny how they actually stand up to today, to what's going on today. One of the episodes I was watching was about sex education, about how they're doing sex education younger and younger in schools. And, sometimes it just takes something from a radical other side to completely change the whatever the movement we thought was going to happen, or whatever we thought was going to happen. When the unexpected happens, it changes our lives and it changes our plans completely. Now, as a mom, I can tell you, children, you never know how they're going to be, what type of relationship you're going to have with them, but it's still going to change your life if you are a present parent. And what also is going to change your life is your relationships with other people. Our relationships with other people are one of the most important things in our life, and our ability to be authentic with them and be real with them is incredibly important as well. It'll really tell you who you are, who you can be, based on how you interact with multiple and different types of people. How you're able to keep your cool, keep your calm, even in the middle of things going on that maybe you don't normally agree with. And the reason that it's so important to set boundaries is so that way you know what you can handle and what you can't. And this all takes place from your experiment of your life. If you want to see everything in your life as an experiment that you've decided to take upon, it makes things a little bit easier to process and to understand. So if I see just this channel, for example, as simply an experiment of how many people can I get to get on board with wellness? How many people can I get to be on board with being okay with being wild? How many people can I get on board to be cool with, hey, let's do some yoga together, or let's do a kettlebell workout together, or let's just be well together in the best sense of the term? Does that mean you're always going to be or feel well? No. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Does this mean that you're always going to be or feel well? No. And that's okay. We all have a plethora of human emotions. We all have a plethora of feelings. Our feelings can change on things. This is something that we're seeing a lot right now, especially with what just happened with, the new presidency and all of that. Again, I'm not really paying a lot of attention to the news, but I do live in what Shane Gillis would call a Fox News parents environment. That's where I'm currently staying, so it's a little bit of an environment, it's a little bit of an experience having Fox News on all the time. And I just choose to see the comedy in it rather than seeing the negative in it. I choose to be grateful to my family for letting us all be a cohesive unit and allowing me to work in the way that I work and being able to do work from home, which is such a blessing, but also being able to send a message. So there's things that I agree and I don't agree with, but it's a sin to turn on CNN in this house. I'm just kidding. But hey, sometimes I want to catch the silver fox on. I just never seem to know what time he is because I never watch live TV. I always go back to my old favorites. I'll go back to South Park. I'll go back to things that keep and make me happy, which is why comedy is so incredibly important, why podcasting has been so incredibly important for me. I've had 2 of my own podcasts, and I just kind of didn't give up on them, but was like, I'll wait and I'll just put out episodes when I feel like there's something that I want to talk about, something that's important, kind of like this. I only like to really put out videos when I feel like there's something that I have to say. I really only like to do live streams when I feel like there's something that I have to say, or I just kind of know ahead of time, hey, this is going to be a stream of consciousness. This is just going to be me talking about a whole bunch of different things, and if this is something you want to get behind, that's awesome, and if it's something that doesn't really suit you, you can go. It's not a big deal. Being well, like I said, is about knowing your boundaries. So when it comes to this whole Fox News thing, what I do is I just walk away. If it's on in the car and I don't want to listen, what do? Put in my AirPods, put on my Beats, listen to something else, listen to music. It's really funny too because with human design told me something I already knew, and it's probably true for a lot of people, but what is a place that you can escape to sometimes? Outside of just being in your mind. Thank you so much for the like. Where's something you can use to escape? Music. For a lot of men too, for them it might be video games, it might be something to just escape whatever the sound is, whatever the noise is, whatever's going on in the public sphere that you really just don't want to have anything to do with. And being more on the apathetic side and being honest about it. The I don't care, but not because I don't care from a sincere point. It's an I don't care because this might negatively affect me and I just don't want to be involved with that right now. All the information we get, we are eventually going to have to process. This is something that's true. This is something that I've really had to learn ever since having this channel, really going through the experience of doing shadow work and going through the experience of learning more about human design, the gene keys, doing less of the workout videos and doing more of the talking because I was tired. I was really tired of just being seen as a physical entity, and I wanted to be seen as something more than that. I really wanted to grow my brand, and I really wanted to make sure that the people that were going to be on this channel were going to be the people that would be able to support me and my dreams, as well as I would be here to support theirs. That's the whole thing with wellness coaching. With wellness coaching, it's about encouraging people to be as well as they can be, but where I'm different is that I understand the whole reasoning of needing to wild out, of needing to be able to have your vices and being told, hey, it's okay to have these vices if they're not ultimately controlling you. Now, we don't always have the ability to be in control of every situation and of every opportunity that's going to come our way. It's going to be different for all of us depending on, unfortunately, how we look, depending on how we're able to speak, depending on the type of demeanor that we have. Are we able to make people feel warm and comfortable? Or are we really bad about making people feel really nervous, really weird, really just unsure, It all depends on your demeanor, on how you speak, on how you act, on how you talk. A lot of it comes down to how you dress. And that's why it was so important for me to dress like I would normally dress if I was just on a regular day without having to worry about being on camera, without having to worry about filming content. I was like, no, I'm going to be more like myself. And also too, these are my thrift store finds that I just found yesterday. And I was super stoked about that too because I was like, okay, finally got to go shopping, wanted to celebrate my birthday, and wanted to celebrate the fact that, I am getting older, and that's not something that I'm ashamed of, and it's something that a lot of people have a difficult time with. I hear so often, especially because I'm friends with a lot of people that are older than me, I hear so often that people don't want to celebrate their birthday. But for me, because I have children, maybe that's one reason. and also because I have a very fun family that enjoys dressing up and doing the funny things that I suggest we do. Like I said earlier, we're doing Barbie and Ken theme for my birthday lunch, and the reason that we're doing that is because I got an Amazon haul before I ended my Amazon subscription and then started a new one. That's okay, it's just an addiction that I am working on. The addiction to Amazon, the addiction to not having to spend money on shipping. Well, I broke that recently and I was really proud of myself for that, but that's a side rail. So the whole reason that we're doing Barbie and Ken is because on Amazon haul I had bought these sunglasses, and they're all very much Barbie themed. There's about 16 of them. I have about 16 people going to my birthday lunch. So I was just doing this all for a photo op. I have my Ken that's going to be there with me. It's not my partner, but that's okay. He can still be my Ken. And I wanted to see what everyone's version of their own Barbie and Ken would be because of the movie Barbie. Now, the reason that this is so important is because what I liked about that movie is that it meant anybody and everyone can be a Barbie and a Ken. If you want to be a real life one, maybe don't be like me and always be on your toes. Maybe you can be flat-footed and that's okay. It also might have been just a callback to evolution, to having us go from monkeys to humans, to eventually we kind of go back into monkeys as we age. Some people are aging in reverse though, and I want to be one of those people, so I wanted to be a Barbie. No, I haven't had plastic surgery yet. I'm only going to be 36. But some people have had plastic surgery at a younger age, and what I'm saying is Cult of Wellness is all about being able to be yourself, and if you want to better yourself physically without looking super hacky and crazy, by all means do it. Get the right doctor for you if you need that in your life. Me, I'm all natural, but that's really not by decision or by choice. That's by lack of funds and not being able to afford the type of plastic surgery that I would want to get. She just got him done bra strapless, huh? And there's something about having a microphone that is actually really freeing, and being able to walk around and talk exactly like how I normally would talk without having feeling that I have to be still and seated, because sometimes that just makes things a lot more difficult. I'm very much a kinesthetic learner, and I very much like to move around a lot. So I'm actually really excited for this microphone because now I'll get to do some of my live streams from nature, from outside. Y'all will get to see the areas that I have that I can, do streams from. That will be really fun. So I'm very stoked about that. Obviously, yeah, it's possible to get pleasure from buying things. I did a, a live stream. I'm doing a live stream and I forgot what a live stream was called. I did a live stream on Zen living and how purchasing things, it should be things that mean something to you. And like I said, I went to the thrift store yesterday and or thrift shopping, I'll say, because we went to a whole bunch of different places. And this sweater and these shorts were part of that find. And the reason that I got these things was because they reminded me of stuff that I care about. I have connections to certain colors, to certain auras, to certain vibes. That's just who I am and what I'm about. I believe everything is cosmic and everything happens for a reason. That does not make me woo-woo, so please don't say that about me. I'll find that more offensive than anything else. It just makes me have a connection to certain colors, knowing what my color scheme is, and wanting this year to be a Barbie and Ken year, or maybe just a Barbie year. If you remember in the movie, if you've seen the movie, Ken just kind of jumps on because he wants to get out too, and he wants to kind of see what's going on. And I was like, it is possible to be a leader of a channel, to be a leader of whatever it is that you're doing, to be the owner of your business, and to be a woman, and to be able to just kind of talk about things, and to have a whole bunch of different types of people actually want to help you and want to be helped. And that's why in this channel and in the whole idea of Cult of Wellness as a brand and also as a charity, and having already a charity selected for who the funds will be going to. The whole point of it is helping others, right? Sometimes that means helping others pro bono, sometimes it doesn't. You have to always, of course, understand what the three important things are that you need to value in yourself. That is your time, right? What are you spending your time on? Because your time is one of the most valuable things you have. Your energy, right? So this is something I've talked about a lot. Your energy is super important. What you're pouring your energy into, what you're pouring yourself into, it all affects you, and it all affects the people around you as well, and the things that you're putting yourself into. So me putting myself online the way that I do, what I'm doing is I'm pouring my energy into something that I know can be seen later on, that I know is going to be relative later on, because not everybody is able to catch me when I do my live streams, because I don't have a schedule for them. I just go and do them when I feel like there's something that needs to be said. Or when I'm doing a reading, I do it because I like to do it on a live stream instead, simply because I am not the biggest fan of editing. And also when I was younger, I had a speech impediment. So when I'm reading and stuff like that, it always goes back to one of my anchoring moments, which is when I was made fun of so badly for stuttering when I was in also 7th grade. And I talk about this a lot because it is possible to be able to learn how to speak a little bit more clearly, maybe not concisely, but to speak more clearly, to have a goal that you want to work on, and to have something that you're so afraid of. It carried with me this speech impediment. It carried with me into high school. So I remember freshman year, I had speech class, and I went one time, and I never went again. I went to a big enough high school that you could just go into another class and skip whatever class you were trying to avoid. That class was gym class. The way that they did their attendance, the way that everything was happening, they didn't even notice that I was going to gym twice a day instead of just once a day. But the truancy officer did notice, and the second half of my freshman year of high school, this is the wild side of me, was me having to go to Saturday school. So I was going to school 6 days a week for the entirety of the second semester of freshman year. In sophomore year, I also had speech class, but for whatever reason, I went to an all-girls Catholic school. They were trying to, see if I just needed some more help or some type of different environment than the environment that I was in. So I went to this all-Catholic girls school, and I did have to get over, thank you so much for the like, and I had to get over this speech impediment somehow because I had to give a really big speech. So what happened? I gave the speech. Yes, I did stutter on a few points. Yes, I did mess up a little bit. But overall, it was good. I got the message across that I needed to get through. And if I hadn't have gone through these experiences, then I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now at this very moment. And it's something that's so interesting because the things that we do as a child, it really carries with us. And that's something that has really been, what's been my personal mission for myself has really been going in and examining the types of things that I was doing, my behaviors that I was doing as a child, and the things that I've been carrying over into adulthood. Because a lot of times we just don't see the connection. I kind of gave myself what I like to call associative identity disorder. So what does that mean? I basically started to connect things to so many other different things in order to layer it in my brain. I had a procedure twice a few years ago that caused memory issues, severe memory issues. And I had a total of 22 treatments. It was ECT, which is electroconvulsive therapy. And it was because I had treatment-resistant depression. And also what was going on is I was having a hard time with any of the medication really doing anything for me. So that was why we tried ECT. And yes, it's like you can imagine, it's not like In a Beautiful Mind, and no, it's not like Suicide Squad. They don't do all that. You have to, be put under, and it's actually something that's very much, it's not that bad. It's not as crazy as you might have sound, especially from A Beautiful Mind. They don't do it like that anymore. At least not where I went, and at least in my thought process, and I hope not in America anymore. But having this done, the thing that I liked about it was that I was able to kind of control what they were going to put me under with. I didn't know they were going to use propofol. That was shocking to me, but they did. But what I asked for was ketamine, because the one thing about ECT is that, they're doing these, currents into your mind or into your brain, your head, whatever, however you want to say it. And with these currents, they need you to be put under because it's very much like being put into a seizure. Something that's used off-brand a lot for people with mental health issues are anticonvulsants, actually. So it's really interesting how convulsing versus not convulsing, how those two things can really make a big difference in mental health. It's used off-label, of course, but insurances will cover it. There's actually one medication that I used to like that I'm actually thinking about being put back on. It's called Topamax. And what it will do is it'll make you tired at night, but it will also cause you to feel fuller for more time. So you can skip the Ozempic and go on Topamax if you would like. It's just going to kind of dumb you down at night because you're going to feel tired. Now, should I have gotten an ad read for a Topamax thing? Yes. Do they need anybody to be their brand ambassador right now? No. So I'm not aiming for that. I'm just talking about something that helped me in the past that, if you have mental health issues, you're not sure what to do. And because I did go to school for medical billing and coding, and because I also studied for my pharmacy tech certification, and education, I know a lot about this kind of stuff, right? I've done a lot of studying and a lot of research in my life, and that's exactly why wellness coaching is so important and why I can help people that also deal with mental health issues and talk a lot about stuff that's more in the therapeutic range of stuff rather than just wild things all the time. I do like to be taken seriously, but I do like to joke around a lot. This is something that's incredibly important to me, is being well on all the facets you can be. But something I've learned a lot from the Gene Keys, and the way that Richard Rudd writes is about the need to pause and reflect. So what I noticed that I was doing is I was responding a lot as a generator, because that's what I am in human design. And what does that mean? A generator can just kind of work, and kind of do stuff. Do we need to? No. So if you're a generator as well, if you've looked into human design a little bit, and you know that you're a generator, do you have to work all the time? No. Are you going to be constantly having the opportunity to generate ideas? Probably. But it's really important to know when your rest time is, when you need to kind of just, turn it down a bit. When you need to slow down a little bit. When you need to take a bit of a break sometimes. That's what this really teaches and what this really does. Excuse me. I'm still getting over that cold and that flu. I just say it was probably coronavirus, but who knows what it was. I didn't go to the doctor about it. Where was I? I was going somewhere and I lost it. That's okay. But I feel a lot more comfortable and confident when I'm able to walk around and kind of move, because that's just me and who I am. This rocking chair, though, does the trick a little bit sometimes, because I get to rock and do all that. But probably one of the biggest tests of my content making is my readings, which is so funny, and I think that energy can be felt through. I try to make the readings very interesting. I try to change my voice a bit to sound more ethereal. Or to sound just more of a certain way, because I want people to be able to not have the same type of issues that I had with learning as I was growing up. When I was in middle school, I was considered in the gifted and talented program. Then some drama happened in 7th grade. I'm telling you, so many things happened in 7th grade. 9/11 happened in 7th grade for me, and a whole bunch of different stuff happened. But 7th grade, My brother, who is also GT, and who's way smarter than me, like he actually is a genius. He's probably could be a part of Mensa. Like he could have gone to MIT. He could do anything. Um, but anyways, my little brother, he left the gifted and talented program, and I took that as the teacher was being mean to him. So I thwarted my GT in English, actually. I thwarted my GT abilities, and I stopped doing the homework. I stopped doing all of it. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to fail out, and I'm really not going to care. Well, the awesome thing was I got moved to the, whatever the step down from GT is, where you're still considered gifted, but, oh, the pre-AP. Okay. So I was in pre-AP English now in 7th grade, and that is the year that we studied World War II. So for me in 7th grade here in Texas, part of our curriculum was learning about World War II, and I just became completely and utterly fascinated with this idea that, and I'm sure everybody does, everybody that, you know, kind of thinks about this from a philosophical standpoint. You start to think about, man, if only Hitler had used his power that he had, especially in speaking, especially in everything that he did, if he had only used it for good, if he hadn't have, you know, tried to massacre his own biological race, if he hadn't tried to whatever, you know, do all the things that he did accomplish. Now, when I say he accomplished things, obviously they were negative, because whenever we do things, there are consequences. Now, these consequences can be positive, these consequences can be negative. But I would say with a resounding yes, that what Hitler did was obviously negative. But I'm loving that in comedy and that in the real world, we're starting to see things kind of come back and seem like, you know, maybe we've actually treated this person with too much reverence. People that we're afraid of, ironically, we always end up treating them with a lot of reverence and a lot of like, oh, I'm afraid. But it's like, hey, Hitler's dead. I understand that there's, you know, still neo-Nazis out there, or who they think they are. There's still, you know, racists and people like that out in the world. But am I one of them? No. I'm actually biracial. Well, more than that, but on paper, I am biracial. I'm half Hispanic and I'm half Caucasian, but I also have Native American in me. I'm actually more Native American than Elizabeth Warren, if you can believe that. I just happen to look white because of my father and because my great-grandfather came from España. He came from Spain, not from Mexico, although he literally did come from Mexico, but we're Spanish. So Hispanic, we're not Mexican per se, maybe by nationality for a little bit in my family, in half my family at least. But, you know, this kind of takes me back then to my scholarship. So my mom's a teacher, and I really respect teachers so much, and I think that's part of why I'm in coaching, is because I learned from her. She was a business major, and then she switched to kinesiology, and so she would take me and my brother with her to all her jobs that she would do and working at the university, and you know, she's the one that really inspired me to be a coach, to really help people as much as I possibly can. And real quick, that reminds me, if you want a postcard from me, if you want to receive some mail, because we are coming up on Valentine's Day, and for some people this can be a lonely holiday and it's something that I want to make fun for people. If you do want a postcard from me by mail, I'm doing a few pro bono. So all you would have to do is DM me or send me an email, and that information is on the about me on my channel page or whatever. At least my email is. You can send me your address and I will be more than happy to send you a personalized postcard. Now, it doesn't have to be Valentine's Day theme related, but it probably will be, because, you know, celebrating love all year long. That's what all this is about as well, is about loving each other in all the ways and developing a tolerance for each other, developing a tolerance for different viewpoints, developing a tolerance for different things, engaging in exposure therapy. Engaging in exposure therapy is something that I don't always like to talk about, but it's something that does work, and it's something that we all end up actually having to do. When we started to overuse the word trigger, when we started to overuse all these things and kind of made helicopter parenting just the standard because of how easy it is to keep track of our kids now because of our devices. When we did this whole thing with triggering and saying, oh, that triggers me, well, I think sometimes we take that a little bit too seriously, and for some people it's because of the way that they interpret that word trigger. There's also a trigger on a gun. So when you think about that messaging, the idea of something triggering you, that means it's a shock to your system. That doesn't mean it's something that's annoying. That doesn't mean it's something that just kind of bothers you. It means that's something that literally causes a shock to your system. So just because you find something annoying or just because you find something irritating, that does not mean it is a trigger. And that's something that I really want to push and drive home, is because what we have to do, not only as a community but as individuals primarily, is we have to be able to take responsibility for our own actions, for our own consequences. We have to be able to take responsibility for the things that have happened in our lives, even if people tell you it's not your fault. This is why. People will tell you that things are not your fault, but what that does is that takes away your power to be able to, at least in your mind and in your head and for your own process, be able to control that situation. I've talked about this before, that when I was a child I was molested by a family member, married in, not an actual family member, so no, there was no incest, thank you. But it was something that was incredibly harmful to my psyche, and especially as a 8 or 9-year-old, you know, not something that was the greatest thing to experience, obviously. You know, you kind of have to talk about, when you're talking about molestation and stuff, there's a reason that I say molestation and not rape. So if you understand what the difference is between the two, good for you. I'm not going to explain what the difference is right now because hopefully you're intelligent enough to understand what I'm getting at. So it was something that really affected me, that caused me a lot of issues, that really pervaded my life for a very long time, caused me to have really weird relationships with a lot of different people, that I couldn't really trust people. I couldn't really let people in because I always thought that they were there to hurt me. And this is coming from a person that, you know, does look like me, and that maybe you would expect to be aloof anyways, but maybe you wouldn't expect to want to be on such a forefront of trying to help others and to trying to be relatable, not because I want people to like me, but because I want you to understand that I've been through a lot of different life experiences. And because of these different life experiences, what I'm trying to do is to let you know that, hey, I've been there as well. Maybe not in the exact same thing that you've been, but I've been there as well, and that's why I'm very qualified to be able to help you and to help others. And in order to live what I believe is my life's mission, is to help others and to see them through things that maybe they didn't know that they could see themselves through. But taking accountability for the things that have happened to you doesn't mean that you're saying it's my fault. It doesn't mean that we're placing blame. It just means that we're holding ourselves accountable. But what is that also doing? That means that we can hold the people that harmed us accountable as well. That doesn't mean we're blaming them, but what it means is that we are holding accountable and being honest with, was something my fault? Now, wanting to take the blame out of it, you can say no. If something happened to you that you could not control the circumstances of the situation, if you were too young to consent, then that's wrong. However, I've also had experiences in my life when I was older and I was using alcohol as a major substance for a while there. And I was younger, I wasn't even 21 yet, but I kind of went through all that stuff when I was younger, thank goodness, so I wouldn't have to deal with it when I'm older. But there's been times when things have occurred, but I was under the influence of alcohol. So I hold myself accountable for those situations simply because if I wouldn't have been under the influence of alcohol, if I wouldn't have allowed myself to have some of my drinks drugged, that's something that I should have and could have been in control of. Now they say not to use should in a lot of things, but should is something that I use on myself because I like to hold myself accountable for everything so I can remain in control of my story, in control of my narrative. And the reason why this is important is because the stories that we tell ourselves are the stories that we are going to build our lives upon. The things that we consider anchoring events, those are the things that are going to really change us, really make us who we are and how we see these anchoring events. I can tell you now that through the lens of growth and through the lens of being able to be my more authentic self, I'm now able to see things through a much different lens. I'm able to see things from a place that is a lot healthier. I'm able to see things from a place that is a lot safer because I've given myself the time and the opportunity to be able to process these things, as has my family, as has my friends. You know, they've been really supportive on my journey, and so I feel the need to also be supportive of other people on their journey and try to help them see things the way that I see them, not because of the fact that I want you to be a fembot or be a Ken bot and see things just the way that I do, but because I want you to be able to grow and to learn from your experiences. And I want you to be able to see things as though that they are something that you can get over. They are something that you can learn to change your behavior, learn to change your reaction to things that happen that may cause you discomfort or that might cause you, well, what is discomfort? Discomfort actually can be growth. And sometimes we do have to be uncomfortable. Now, does that mean that it's okay for people to make us feel uncomfortable? Well, here's the thing with that. You have to be able to take ownership and take control of your own boundary, your own net, right? So am I saying you have to be sober the rest of your life, you can never touch a drink? No. But what I am saying is that when you put yourself in a position and you don't have people around that are safe, that want the best for you, and that understand that, hey, it's okay to wild out once in a while, but maybe you're not hanging around people that are going to help keep you safe in those types of situations, then take responsibility for the fact that you did put yourself in that situation. You don't have to blame yourself, you don't have to blame others. Just like there's people that they were also in high school with me and they didn't know what they were doing. They were in high school, you know? So I don't go out and talk about the things that have happened to me and that, you know, I'm not actively trying to out people because people will do things and people can change. And I've seen that change in people. I've seen the remorse in people. People have apologized to me for certain situations that they were also a part of and they've taken their responsibility. So who am I to try to out someone? Because I myself, I hate cancel culture. I am about having the conversation. I am about being honest about where I'm at and where other people are at as well. But what I'm not cool with is hurting people and canceling people potentially just because it might in the moment make me feel better, it might in the moment make other people that have gone through my experience, it might make them feel better. You know, like, hey, they want their retribution. Hey, they want to get back at somebody. But is that coming from a place of forgiveness? And that's something that a cult of wellness, or cult of wellness, however you want to say it. We can have an A, we can have a the in front of it. It doesn't really offend me either way. Everyone's going to say Facebook or the Facebook. It was actually called both of those at one time. So if you want to add an A or a the to cult of wellness, it's not going to bother me, but it is just cult of wellness. But taking responsibility, taking ownership, that's the easiest way to get through and past the issues that you're going to have, the emotions that you're going to have, the things that are really going to start up all those triggers, start up all those intrusive thoughts. The way through is forgiveness. And obviously forgiveness of yourself is going to be probably the most important. Especially when you have yourself in situations where you could have been under the influence of a substance, or you could have been under the influence of even just peer pressure, right? Peer pressure can be a drug in and of itself. You have enough people telling you to do something. You know, a lot of us will go to a whole bunch of different people to get advice. Whereas what I've found is, as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more mature and as I've studied more of human design and the gene keys, I don't have to go to a whole bunch of people for advice. The first person I go to is myself. I trust my intuition, I trust my gut, I trust what's right for me. But this obviously took a lot of time and this took a lot of work. Being able to get here, being able to have this conversation that I'm having right in this moment, this isn't something that I would have probably been able to do a few years ago. This would have been something where I would have been living in fear, I would have been so paranoid, so anxious, like, oh, what can I talk about, what can I say, what's going to be relevant, what's going to be, thinking about all these things about how it should be relevant to everybody else, when I'm understanding that I created this community and I want this community to exist because I want everyone to be able to help be there for each other. And to also understand that, yes, I know I'm a pretty face, I get it, that's what the OF is for. But more importantly, what I'm here to do is I am here to change people's minds and to see people through a different way of being, a different way of consciousness, so they can be more healed, right? Healed, Healed. To heal yourself, or to know that it is possible to heal yourself from your trauma, to heal yourself from your triggers. It's possible to become a better version of yourself without being hokey and stupid about it, as some other people will say. Or it's totally okay to be hokey and stupid about it, right? We're all in a place that we can all be more well. I could quit vaping. But to me vaping is something that's a step up from what I used to do, and that was smoking cigarettes. Vaping got a really bad rap early on when someone abused the vaping privilege, also didn't understand what coils were, and also had a vape that was not made correctly because they were still figuring it out back then. And because one or a few people died that were underage and not knowing how to control themselves with their vapes, that was when this whole rhetoric got started that vaping is worse than smoking cigarettes. Now, is this true? I don't believe it is, right? So our beliefs and our thoughts are so important because whatever we believe, whatever we think, that's something that's going to be ruminating in our lives, and we're going to see it a lot. There's a therapeutic word for it, but I can't think of it right now. I'm not a therapist, I'm a coach. So the whole thing with vaping and stuff like that is that I see it as a step up from smoking cigarettes, from spending the thousands and thousands of dollars that I did on not only the cigarettes themselves, but on the laundry that I would have to do. With vaping, I don't have to do the extra laundry just because I wore something once and then have to go and wash it. With vaping, I don't have to do that. I do see the problem though with vaping and having it being targeted toward younger people. I myself use Pop Hit the most. And what I like about Pop Hit is that it is, I don't believe it's chargeable actually. I think they're just literally disposable. But you can taste when you should stop using it. So it's kind of like one of those things where it teaches you, right? Like, how addicted are you to me? As my flavor runs out, are you still going to use me for something? And what it really smoking ends up being for a lot of people is, especially if you're a kinesthetic learner, what it ends up being is something that's just a oral fixation. And that's it, really. It's an oral fixation because for some people, nicotine can be just like caffeine, right? There's a lot of people that caffeine doesn't really affect all that much. There's other people that it does affect them a lot and they're just in denial and they can't understand that it's actually affecting them quite a bit. I've done this experiment on myself recently because I thought I was one of those people that was immune to the effects of caffeine. Not true. I started to change the times that I would ingest caffeine. I started to have my cutoff be 2 o'clock for at least having coffee, right? This is not including my other vice that I engage in sometimes, which is soda, which I know is totally wrong, totally anti being well, but you know, hey, it's okay. We all have our vices and it's normal for everybody to have their own vice. I did actually, though, get some new soda. It's apricot flavored, so we'll see how that turns out. But it's made with real cane sugar, and using real cane sugar is healthier than the corn syrup that we are accustomed to, especially here in the United States. So when you can get, if you drink soda, and if you want to be, you know, be like okay with drinking soda, I'm not going to say stop drinking it altogether. I'm just going to say try to cut down on anything that is a negative to your health. Try to cut down on it as best you can, or find a replacement that's less harmful, that's less bad for you. Even with me in these live streams, something that's probably less bad for me is sitting all the time, is being able to stand. So I love having this microphone because what is it doing? It's elevating my voice for me without me having to do the extra work. It's helping you hear me more clearly. And it's something for me to hold on to because it also is going to help me do what? Put down the vape because I'm already holding something to my mouth. And again, this is just understanding that there are things that from a point of view of understanding habits, of understanding body language, when we're smoking, what are we doing? We're bringing something to our mouth over and over, we're sucking on it, and then we're exhaling, and then that's it, right? So I could just be talking all the time. I'm not going to do this, obviously. There's a reason that I vape, and that's because it also helps with my pausing and my ability to respond to whatever it is that I need to respond to, whatever stimuli there is. But having this microphone is going to be helpful to vape less on camera, which I was like, I didn't even think about that as a possibility. But in the course of this live stream, I've discovered that that is definitely something very possible, especially depending on what hand I am using to hold the microphone. And there's something so small about that. There's all these things that are so little that doesn't mean that, they don't mean anything. I mean, even the most trivial of things are important. So if something is easier for me to do with a certain side of my brain, then I'm going to try to even it out with the other side of my brain or the other side of my body, right? Because this controls this controls this. What I'm going to do is try to be as balanced as possible. So when it comes to having certain vices, is it okay to have them? Absolutely. Is it okay to have some type of an addiction mentality? I think we all have the things that we're kind of stuck on, that we have, habits from, that we have rituals that we have made from. So, is it okay to have an addictive personality? I don't know. What's a type A personality? Is it an addiction to success? I don't know. Does type A just mean that they're more going? I don't know. I have both type A and I have type B as well tendencies. So it just kind of depends for me personally. And the reason why I use a lot of my own stories and a lot of my own, my own life is because, again, I want people to know that I've been through a lot of things, and that's why I'm such a good coach and why I'm able to help so many different types of people. Even through something like this, it's not about just being a pretty face, it's not about just showing you what I can do with my body, but it's also about showing you how my mind works. And how, because of the way that my mind works and because of the things that I've been through, I'm actually in a really good position to be able to help you to be able to become the better version of yourself, the more authentic version of yourself, to let you know, hey, it's okay to be yourself, right? Now, is it okay to harm other people? Not intentionally, no. Is it okay to have boundaries? Technically, I've been asked this question recently. The question was, are my boundaries going to hurt other people? This is the answer. It depends. It depends on how much you've allowed your boundaries to be used and abused, or how much you haven't had in place your boundaries, right? Some people are going to naturally respect your boundaries, understand that you have your space that you need. There's other people that are very codependent that don't need that space, and so it's going to feel very much like a vampire sucking on you when you're not a codependent person, but you have people with codependent tendencies around you. That's going to feel very vampire-like. And so that's why it's really important to have these boundaries in place, to be able to have these conversations, to be able to talk about things in a way that, hey, we're covering as many bases as possible, and I'm kind of going off on certain tangents and then coming back, but there's a reason for it. It's because I want to be able to hit on a lot of different things while at the same time keeping your attention. And I can do that by doing what? Walking around. Oh my gosh, let me show you my shorts. See, I can do things just like anybody else can. It's not a difficult thing to do. Having these conversations can be really easy, and sometimes you just need the right prop, and I feel like having this microphone is a great prop for live streaming, especially live streaming the way that I would like to. without being robotic, as some people have called me when I do the readings, and I'm like, well, this is information that I feel is important to get out there, so I'm going to continue to do it. The things that are going to be on my channel are going to be the things that I would have for my brand, right? And wanting to help as many people as possible is doing what? Still having public live streams, still having public videos, not having everything behind a paywall, even though eventually, yes, this will be going behind a paywall, because this is something new, this is something different, this is something that I haven't done before. Other people have done it before, but I have not. So I am going to put this on one of my tiers, but I'm going to leave it in the public for a while. So that way people can kind of see, okay, it is possible for me to be my authentic self. It just takes certain types of things. And what does that mean? Me walking around and talking, right? Being able to respond to things, being able to respond to my own thoughts, being able to respond to people on live stream, on the live chat. That's one of my favorite things about live streaming, is when there's people on the live chat that have something they want to say, have something they want to talk about, and I'm able to respond to them. So I always love live streaming because I love participating in the live chat. I love responding to people. And sometimes I just don't give people the opportunity to ask a question or to really ask anything. Sometimes I just keep going and don't stop talking. And that's the other thing about streams of consciousness. With streams of consciousness, it's just you're going on your conscious stream. You're just talking. Am I saying things that are important? Yes. I am. And it's important to other people too, because there's people that have been tuned in this entire time, and I appreciate that. I appreciate them. I appreciate the people that come in and out that are like, okay, is she doing any yoga yet? And I completely understand. It's okay. When channels are changing, when things are changing and things are trying to become a little bit more mainstreamed and mainlined, or not mainlined, whoops, just mainstreamed, you know, trying to have people understand that yes, I'm a person, yes, I know what I look like, and there's a lot more beautiful people out there than me. Not saying that to be like, oh, feel sorry for me, not at all. I'm saying that because there's a lot of other people that put themselves out there in a certain way to get certain kinds of attention. And for me personally, I don't feel the need to do that. However, I do understand that because of the way I look, I do have a gift that some other people do not have, so why wouldn't I use that to my advantage on something like OF? Well, I would, and I did. And that's why there's that place, so that way people can wild out with me on there and not so much on YouTube, because of the fact that there's so much demonetization and all of that going on, and I really don't want that on this channel. Although, of course, I have a very high tier, which I'm still working on content for, but on that tier there will be also more wild content as well. And no, I did not plan this to look like I'm just wearing a sweatshirt. I do have shorts underneath. Again, showing off my thrift store finds. You know, just being myself. Hoping people can, you know, understand that it's not always going to be just about being a pretty face. It's going to be about sending a message and sending one that really matters. And that's, I want you to be the most authentic version of yourself. I want you to be at the highest level of yourself whenever you can be, but I also want you to understand it is perfectly okay to be wild. It is perfectly okay to be well. It is perfectly okay to be both at the same time. That is the whole point. Be well, stay wild as well, right? That's the catchphrase. It originally was be well, stay wild. It kind of morphed into be well, stay wild as well. Because yes, it's important to be well, but it's also important to maintain that wild side, to maintain that fun side. I want to be able to talk about pretty much anything I want to be able to talk about. Being demonetized, be damned, you know? So that is going to happen. That has happened. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from those videos and those live streams, which I appreciate. But that's the whole thing, is that I want people to understand that it's okay to be both, and it is possible to be both at the same time. It really is. It's okay to be wild, to let loose, and it's okay to be well and to be a little bit more, buttoned up maybe, however you want to say it. Or maybe being well is also being wild at the same time. It's being able to accept yourself, being able to accept who you are in all your facets at the exact same time. Thank you so much for their hearts. Oh, it's Mac. Hey, Mac. And that's exactly why I love to do these live streams. I love to do them because I have people that have been with me since maybe not the right beginning, but they've been here for a long time, and they're people that tune in, that actually care about what's going on in this cult of wellness world and cares about the stuff that's being talked about, because it's stuff that's important to me, it's stuff that's important to this community, and it's stuff that I am so honored and I care so much about that people do tune into for a reason. So again, today was a lot about authenticity. It was a stream of consciousness, so that stream of consciousness is on the end of that sailing ship because I've been doing this for over an hour. But I really wanted to show off my new microphone. I really wanted to be able to show people, like, hey, when I'm talking, this is me walking around and talking. And I'm really excited to do more live streams out in nature. I will be doing my reading live stream for today. It will be the Dare to be Divine. I might do more than that, and that's going to be for the exclusive tier. The exclusive tier, they're getting the Dare to be Divine book reading that is not available to the public. So that is why it is so important that if you do want to be a part of this community, for you to join whatever membership tier you would like. I have 4 of them, and I am creating content for all of them. Maybe not on a daily basis, but as much as I possibly can. I have different platforms that I'm on, different things that I do live streaming on and for, so yes. But outside of that, thank you so much for being here, for listening, for having comments, for having things to say, for just listening, for taking the time to listen, for taking the time to understand that, hey, the channel is not going to be changing a whole craziness, but we just have more areas that we can be wild from and more things that we can do now as a community. So thank you so much for being here for this live stream. I appreciate each and every one of my members. I appreciate each and every one of my subscribers, and I look forward to doing the next live stream or next video, which, as we know, is going to be for the exclusive tier. It's going to be the Dare to be Divine. I'm going to get dressed and changed because I just got a whole bunch of clothes yesterday. Yay. And my birthday's coming up on February 10th. I don't know if I'll be doing a live stream on there, but when I do a live stream closer to that date, we can have a celebration for my birthday. I'll be turning 36. Woo! All right, guys. So I'll see you next time. Do I have something in my teeth? Yes, I do. I had makeup on my teeth the whole time. Thank God for the microphone. All right, y'all. Be well. Stay wild as well.